Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen W. Long. This is The Writing Life, and welcome to you. I was thinking guests come to us in a variety of ways. Sometimes, they contact us, or we happen to know somebody from our local college. And very often, somebody is recommended to us. And I have to say, I don't think anybody's ever been more highly recommended than my guest today. And Bejamin, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, McMinnville.
I've so looked forward to this because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not setting you up for something here.
Sure.
Because we just met,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know you, but I wanted to know something to not sound like a babbling idiot.
Sure.
And I was thinking, what can I get a handle on? How can I assign something to you to get me grounded? And you know who I thought of? Anthony Bourdain. Now, does that maybe just
No, I know I know Bourdain.
Yeah. But does the analogy make any sense
Toward
to you?
myself?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I avoid thinking about myself through other people or other people out
Well,
there.
and
But I have a mad amount of respect for Bourdain.
Okay. And the reason is, this is a writing show. We're going to talk about writing and so on.
He was a good writer.
And he was. But the other thing is, he's an adventurer, and I think you are as well.
Maybe.
Is that fair?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay,
Adventurer. I might prefer the term detective.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I think that's the storytelling part, like finding the narrative. Adventure is maybe out there trying to find their own narrative.
Okay.
Yeah, and I am trying to find pre-existing narratives, communicate other people's narratives.
Okay. But you do travel a lot.
Correct.
Okay. And is it travel as an investigator? In other words, is your purpose in traveling to go suss those out? Or is it just so darn much fun?
No, the former.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So you're working at it?
Yeah, all the time. It's how does this play into my writing? Is there a story here? Is there a community that needs advocating for? Is there a missing piece to a puzzle of understanding that I can fill in the blank of? That's why I go somewhere.
Okay.
And then the other places I go half the time are just for work.
I want to talk about that too. So
Yeah.
I've heard that one of the things that you've done is go to harvest breadfruit.
Yes. Yeah.
You didn't know that I knew that.
Yeah, no, I didn't know. I didn't expect that.
So our mutual friend
Yeah.
clued me in.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he did. Do you want me to speak to that?
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I had to look up breadfruit, but we
Yeah.
got that nailed down, so
Yeah.
go ahead.
Ulu. I know it as ulu.
Okay.
So I've gone to the big island of Hawaii, the southernmost island in the archipelago. His name is Hawaii, but everybody there just knows it as Big Island. It is Big Island as far as I know it. And then there was a farm on the northern part of Big Island that was doing biodynamic repurposing of this section of the island for ulu or breadfruit.
Okay.
Yeah, pre-colonization, this part of the island grew this huge amount of breadfruit. And so I got there as a farmer, recommended from a friend of a friend, and was working for this organic ulu company.
I've got the timing a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a youngish guy, so this is fairly recently. It sounds like the land was developed quite some time ago. Is that?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Hawaiian people. I mean, that was one of their Yeah. That's like a huge part of a Hawaiian diet, traditional Hawaiian diet pre-colonization, and this whole section of the island is known as the Ulu Belt because it was and is now people advocating for it again to be used to produce ulu, which then during colonization, the British wanted to grow a bunch of citrus. American industries want coffee to be grown there.
Okay. We're going to be all over the place, but
sure.
So would the breadfruit be consumed locally, or is that for export?
Locally,
do you know?
Yeah. The farm that I was working for is all going back to the island. I think we sold to a couple other islands, but yeah, the idea is to.
But it's
keep
Hawaii,
it in,
whether it's
to keep it in Hawaii.
Okay. Now I understand you've harvested other things.
Yeah.
Which are
which are large-scale marijuana production in Southern Oregon, commercial fishing in Alaska in the summer. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Which one are you interested in?
Well, I just learned about the fishing, which I thought was so fascinating. And because, again, I think that's adventuresome. I don't know how you harvest marijuana. I suspect I don't know, you cut it, you snip it or something.
It's a little bit more than that, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not dangerous.
Not as maybe overtly dangerous as like commercial fishing.
Yeah. And that's what I meant. Again, I don't, other than what I see on television, but that sounds like a heck of something that maybe you'd have to grow up in, and I suspect you didn't.
No, but that assumption is accurate insofar that the vast majority of captains were given their captain's license from a family member. Okay. Normally it's patrilineal, so it's a dad giving it to their son. Right. And yeah, it was my uncle recommended me to this captain. And then, went up, started seine fishing, and then I did set netting as well. A couple years up there.
Yeah. And is that during the summer or?
Yeah, so I'm up there doing salmon runs. So salmon run in Alaska in the summer.
Okay. Have any of those experiences informed your writing?
Of course. Yeah. Okay. I think everything that this will inform my writing, our conversation here. Okay. I don't think there's anything that's not informing.
Right. Somebody told me, and I like this, that being a writer is a license to snoop, or eavesdrop maybe or something.
I mean, yeah, it allows me to go, okay, I'm going to go do this thing with this purpose in mind, with like the idea that I can write about this, or there's a story here to be found somewhere.
Bejamin, what do you like to write?
What do I like to write?
So, I mean, the broadest topic would be fiction, nonfiction.
Sure.
Are you reporting on what you see, or do you use that as a foundation to generate a story and then make it real, fill it in, but really you've conceived this thing?
Largely what I write is fiction.
Okay.
But there have been moments where I did journalism professionally. I don't really like how I engage with my writing and my work when I'm doing journalism. It's like drawing water from a well that then when I go to do the work I care more about, fiction, that well has so much less water in it. But then this last August, I was doing volunteer work on the border with a humanitarian group, the South Texas Human Rights Center, and I found stories there that I was like, I cannot fictionalize it. It is my responsibility to tell these stories as they exist.
Right. I'm in a writing group, and just a couple of nights ago, one of the ladies in the group, who is a writer by profession, and naturally she reports on things, and said the same thing that you did, that it's disheartening because she feels drained, and then when she wants to create, it's not there.
Yeah, I agree with this person.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your poster.
This one, that story is a piece of fiction. There Will Only Be One Funeral is the story. It got published by this UK-based press, Platypus Press, on their Wildness Journal. And one of my best friends is an artist, a printmaker in Eugene, and so I wanted a tangible copy of it. Yeah, so I can come around and walk around with it and give it to people or try to sell it to people or whatever that looks like. Just because it's like great that it's on the internet, right? It's great that it was put out by this press, but there is this corporeal want to have it.
Absolutely. You may have heard before we started recording here, we're going to interview Karen Huntzberger here, I think next week. And her two books are an assemblage of letters written from and to her father when he was in World War II. That was the first book. And then the second book was letters written from her aunt.
Cool.
And one of the things that I think, but they were letters. They're not emails, or they're not on the not in the internet. They're not floating around. I suppose the internet will never go away, but Grandma's not going to find a bunch of those wrapped up with a ribbon in the closet. And so I'm a long way around to say I'm totally with you on this one.
Yeah. But there are artists, I think, doing cool work with with doing like screenshots of their text messages or emails and then including that within their work. Yeah, Claudia Rankin comes to mind. Jay Dodd, I know, is doing it in their new book. Like, it's really, I think we're going to see that more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's such a part of the way that like we exchange ideas.
Right.
Yeah, and document like where we're at, the conversations we have that I
Right.
expect
It
we'll keep
seems
seeing
to
it.
me that it's sort of a double-edged, and that is, on the one hand, they seem very ethereal, and on the other hand, and we've seen it already, things that you said at one time come back to bite you because they never go away. So be careful, I tell my kids at least, be careful what you put on Facebook, because you may want to change jobs someday and they're going to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this, I read on your website that you self-publish using a silkscreen press. Is
Yeah.
that what this is?
That's actually inkjet, but these two, the one behind you and the one behind me, are all done via screen print. So,
Okay.
yeah, just the text was printed and then the image was run through, silkscreen press.
I think I know what that is.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you not just print it like a copier or print something?
I would say for aesthetic reasons.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then
Okay.
just the idea too that like each one of those has a number on it, like 37 out of 200.
Right.
And so that you know there, the printmaker is telling you with that /200 that there's only 200 of these that exist.
Right.
But then I also think that there's like an aesthetic quality to it where it's like, oh, okay, there's this little like mess up here, there's this ink smudge here, this one's oriented like 1% off, and because of that, this is a unique product.
Yeah.
You bought something that is
It's
a
like,
unique print.
I'm not a stamp collector, but Jenny inverted. There's the Jenny airplane. There was some small number of stamps printed upside down, and boy, are they valuable.
Yeah. So something like that. If I just like rallied off a whole bunch through just like a printer that anyone could reproduce,
Sure.
I think something's lost.
And it is, we've had this conversation, or I have with people who do. This is great because it sort of blurs the lines of art and literature. But they were talking about just art, and there's something about owning the one or the original, or at least some numbered amount. That's it. There's not going to be any more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think that's part of.
I think
part of it for me.
I don't know. I think this is part and parcel of the talk about do you want a physical book or do you want a tablet? And it's a different experience. And I'm not sure I have my head around that, but it's just that I recognize that it is.
I have nothing against, I'm no Luddite, I've got nothing against the tablets. I like that it can make reading accessible and easier for people.
Sure.
Like people that are, one's book can be disseminated to however many more people
Right.
via a tablet. But I read so tactically, or tactilely.
You're right, tactily, yeah.
Yeah, where I have books that when I'm done with it, will just be covered in notes. Yeah, I have this copy of Savage Detectives by Roberto Bolaño that has my blood in it because I got hit in the face and I was bleeding while I was reading it, and I love that. It becomes then this individual thing where it's I have this book that is a unique copy of this book that has my notes in it, and then it has myself in it.
Right.
Yeah, I carry them around everywhere. I can't not.
What a great segue, because I want to ask you about, is it the Delve seminar summary?
Yeah.
Okay, talk about that. I looked at it, I'm not sure, did you write that?
So the Delve seminars is through a nonprofit organization, Portland-based organization called Literary Arts. Literary Arts is awesome. They do a whole bunch of cool stuff for Portland and Oregon in general, and just the literary community in the world. They just contribute a lot. And I teach seminars through them, or lead seminars is maybe the verb they like.
Because I think it says that they call you the guide.
Yeah, the guide, in that they're discussion based. So I'm there, maybe an expert on an author, whatever that's supposed to mean. But I'm there going, okay, I can answer questions if people have very specific questions. When was this person born and stuff like that. But then I'm also the one there encouraging ideas. In chapter 3, in the scene where the cab driver got beat up, what did y'all think of that? Facilitating the conversation between the other participants. It's great because I walk away from it always feeling like I've learned something. Yeah, we're in
Okay.
the middle of one right now. I just started one on Monday,
Uh-huh.
and then it's another 6 weeks after this.
Okay. So is the purpose of the seminar is it for that group to learn about the book?
Yeah.
Or they want to do something with that information? In other words, what I'm thinking is somebody who wanted to be a writer, if you're pointing out in chapter 3, and do they take that and say, oh, now I know how to introduce this character? Or,
No, I'd say it's largely people who are just there wanting to be in discussion
Okay.
about a book.
Okay.
So somebody who is impassioned to read an author that they've never heard of before,
Yeah.
or wanting to revisit a text that meant a lot to them, but that they're having trouble conceiving of why was this so impactful to me. It's like, think of it as somewhere like maybe beyond a book group, but in terms of like the structure and then just like the rigor of the conversation, but then somewhere below like an accredited college class.
great. That's a great description of that.
Yeah, and I think that, there's something very unique to it too, because I'm not there at the chalkboard going, all right, everybody shut up, here's like, just you take my information.
Right.
It's there.
So you are the guide.
Yeah.
There's a conversation and you kind of steer it.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that's exactly
What's
what
the
it is.
venue for that?
Literary Arts is an office space downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Portland.
Yeah.
In fact, our mutual friend, we went to see Ann Patchett one time at Literary Arts. And one of the great experiences and one of the most disappointing. And the disappointing was that days later I found out had I turned the ticket over, we were invited to meet Ann backstage,
yeah.
which I didn't get to do.
Yeah,
So-
at the reception.
That's right.
Yeah.
You did you happen to be there?
No, yeah.
You were probably off harvesting breadfruit. or
Yeah,
something.
something like that, yeah.
Okay. I've talked a little bit about this, but expand on what you write. In other words, is this a typical length? Are you working on a book? Is it more like, I don't know, short
Sure.
stories or poetry? Or
Yeah, I
probably yes to all those.
yeah, yes to all those, and I have a I keep thinking more and more that just there's no such thing. Poetry and prose as these two very separate categories is something that I'm like less interested in thinking about and more interested in like sitting in between the two of them.
Right.
Yeah, I've always obsessed over the Argentine great Jorge Luis Borges, who's just like, I think when I read Borges, I just like I kind of unravel and I like lose myself in my corporeality and just find myself just in this. He's so transportive, and so much of his work is iconically itty bitty. Here is a 500 or
Okay.
500 word story.
Okay.
Here is a 1,000 word story that feels like it is a novel within itself. I mean,
Because you lose yourself in it?
and because of just the tightness of his writing, the subject matter as well. He plays with infinity all the time, and so just in conversation with Borges, I love what the industry would call like flash fiction. That to me is really fun. It's like, okay, I want somebody to read a piece of this length, and then walk away from it going, whoa, holy smokes, that was only whatever that is, 400 words, and I feel like it just got hit me over the head. But then, yeah, I'm finishing a book. I'll be done with it, I think, within a week or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a novel, or
It's
is it a collection?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
an
a-
anthology like
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's a collection. Yeah, there's like a couple essays in it. There's an essay about a rooster. There's the essay I did when I was down in South Texas. But then this piece is in it. There's two much longer pieces in it as well. It's just like feeling to shout out to Claudia Rankin again, feeling really inspired by them. That just like a book doesn't need to be. I don't need to go. I'm less interested in being like, I'm going to write a book of prose only.
Right.
And then I'll have my poetry over here.
Right.
And then here, maybe I'll have this essay published in this magazine. Like, to me, it's just like, why not?
It's just writing.
It's all my work, and all the work I think is in conversation with itself.
Right.
And and we'll put it in this book.
I think of a couple things. One is the blurring lines,
Uh-huh.
and you hear creative nonfiction. It's like, well, if it's nonfiction, how do you make it up? So that's a little bit blurry. I also think of Stephen King, who has talked about his process or whatever, and he said when he gets an idea, it's his analogy is he's walking down the road and there's something catches his eye down there, and it's just poking up out of the dirt, and he doesn't really know what it is, but it looks interesting. So he goes over and he starts brushing away. Well, that's a metaphor for he's writing. He's finding out what is this thing. And he says sometimes he'll uncover a short story, or sometimes it's a novel, or sometimes it's something else, an essay. And so it is just writing. Doesn't matter what you call it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got just a bunch of work. I mean, just the infinite trunk of work where it's like, okay, I thought this was a thing and it was not a thing. I thought this was a thing and it was a thing. And then it's like, whatever percent of that, whatever small percent of these things where I'm like, oh, is this an object that I want to share? And it's like, no, definitely not. Some small percentage of it ends up being like one of the novellas that I have in this book I'm finishing.
Okay.
Ends up being like a 20,000 word story.
Nice. Benjamin, how will it be available? Are you going to disseminate that?
I'm going to try to hustle it. Yeah,
okay.
I want to try to hustle it. Yeah,
okay.
If I can get it sold, then great. Yeah, I'll let y'all know all about it.
Okay.
But that's an aspiration.
Okay. I was thinking, do you have a path? In other words, like, is it a physical book? Maybe, or you hope it is. Is it online?
Yeah, I'm less interested in self-publishing, not because I hate on self-publishing. I got mad respect for anybody that can self-publish, and I've had friends that have done it and had a huge amount of success. But I just don't want to think about selling stuff. I'm here to write a book.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I do have an agent who I just adore. They work so hard, and I don't really understand why, but they have mad respect for my work, and so. Luckily for me, it's I don't have to do the query thing, which is just so maddening.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's just it's not even a side of me I like engaging.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've touched on this a little bit, but I'm not flattering you. I'm just using these words. You really seem like a Renaissance man. Yeah, and so, and I thought, okay, you've got all of these things. I mean. Takes a lot of energy for one thing, but is there so the work the work for pay? I kind of touched on that, but then when you say you go sign up to do this job for the summer, and I'm going to get this money, and the reason I'm going to get this money is because my real passion is to do this one thing. Do you have a one thing?
Writing.
It is, okay, and that's when you were recommended to us, he said, this guy's a writer. He writes all the time.
Yeah, unequivocally. I have lucky or, moments in my life where there's jobs that have been available to me as something that I could do all the time, but it's I already have one. Or I have the thing I want to do all the time, and that's explore writing.
Yeah.
And so then it's okay, commercial fish, so I can make...
So that you can.
So I can then go do nothing but just wake up and in my boxers, sit in front of my typewriter and drink tea for the first 4 hours of every day for however many months until the bank account runs out, and then I'm okay, time to go.
Then we'll
go do and find another hustle. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a cliche in writing, and I wish I could remember the person who said this, but a woman author was asked why she wrote, and she hesitated and said, I didn't know I had a choice. So I think that's maybe you.
That's absolutely true too.
Yeah.
My experience.
Well, you have, and before I get there, photography, you do that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, an avocation, do you make any money?
No.
Do you care to make money?
I was really lucky that there's a defunct gallery in Eugene, Oregon, that I don't know how they found my work, but I had a show when I was 19 years old in this gallery, bunch of my photography, and then that went well in terms of reception, and then suddenly it's I got invited to show in Portland, and then I just had this slew of show across several years, and then I walked away from it with hundreds of prints, because I would refuse to show the same thing twice. So I have all these prints, nobody bought any of them, and I was like, dang, I can't do this anymore. This is too expensive. So now I do photography whenever I go anywhere.
Because on your website, I'm going to plug you a little
Yeah.
bit, and Caroline, maybe we could put that up there, and but there's some neat stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. It's all film photography that
I remember film.
Yeah. And it's still out there. It's still out there. It's become this high art thing where it's like, gone are the days of the family going to the Grand Canyon with their Kodak camera and
Right.
advancing to the next exposure. But
Right.
I think it is absolutely. I think it'll survive with people who are doing it because of the specific aesthetic.
I talked to somebody the other day about that, and I really didn't know that it was still readily available.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's what that's what I do.
I took a photography class in college, and I remember the dodging and burning. I don't know if you do that.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. At the time, this was a long time ago, our teacher was a professional photographer and talked about, I think it did a wedding, and it was a cloudy day, but he put in sun. And so this is, again, a long time ago. I thought, oh my God, that's magic. Now you can just do anything, it seems like.
Yeah, and some of those old school tricks, the film tricks, like I still think those are. It's hard to replicate them digitally, though. There's more and more attempt to do so. But like long exposures, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, if I were to like hold the lens open and let light hit the film for 3 seconds or something like that, any movement you did,
Right.
it would be caught there. And so
Sure.
like Houdini was messing around with that way back in the day, where he was taking, he was actually doing it to defunk this idea of ghosts. People would
Okay.
be like, look at it's ectoplasm,
Right.
and really it was just a sheet over someone's face in a 10-second exposure.
Right.
And so Houdini would do it and be like, look, that's actually people messing with you
Right.
to do. Yeah,
Don't look
debunk
behind
these
the curtain.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. You know something, before we run out of time, I want to tell you, I was impressed with your website. And one of the things I liked was you've got a little section, it's called People I Love.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Oh yeah, Stephen Weeks did all
Yeah.
the design work for these posters.
Yeah.
Like my friend Taylor Johnston, she did the illustrations for these. It's
Okay.
like, yeah, what are we but our communities? What are
Yeah.
we but the people who are taking
Well, I
care of
thought
us?
that was giving, it was generous, and a recognition, and just a nice thing. I think, not that everybody does this, but a website could be, look at me, look at me. And you didn't do that.
Yeah.
So
I feel like just being an artist, you're kind of doing that no matter what. And I am not really interested in it. Like my story is I want to give other people, create space for other people.
right.
I'm not.
Do you have a problem sharing this stuff? And the reason that I ask that, I write and I want to share it. And at the same time, I feel like a kid coming home from camp and saying, look what I made.
Yeah.
And there's a reluctance. Do you feel that?
There's good days and bad days.
Yeah.
But I think what helps more than anything is having my allies. So, there's like certain people in my life who are people I love that I
Yeah.
don't talk to them about my writing. But then it's like my editors, like my trusted minds,
Okay.
people who know my work and whose work of theirs, if they write too, that I know.
Yeah.
So to them, I have no problem being like, look I did this thing.
Right.
Whereas I might not talk to a family member in the same way because I'm like, I see them glaze over every time I bring
Sure.
up my writing.
Sure. Well, I think that's one response. The other one that is a danger is, oh, honey, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And so that's not real.
Yeah, and that's where like good editors or good trusted minds, like they're out there being like,
Right.
this part sucks. Like I
Yeah.
know you can do better than this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard an interview one time, I think it was on NPR, and the two people in the booth, in addition to the host, were Stephen King and his editor. And his editor was, and King was, I'm going to say he was 60, I don't know, whatever he was. And the editor was like 32. And I thought, how at 32 do you stand up to Stephen King? But he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, doggone, we're out of time.
That flew by.
Yeah, how about that? Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for
just
having me. This was
Super
great.
interesting.
Yeah, this was
And
great.
let us know when your book is out, and
Yeah, I
and,
will.
I want to round that up.
Sweet, thank you.
Okay. Here we go again, folks. Another half hour. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Stephen W. Long. I'm getting a reworked website, so come visit me, stephenwlong.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
What do you think? We done?
I don't know, you guys want to do one just with yourself without me doing the
As long as they think we're
bongos?
done, if
No,
they got
no,
enough, they got enough.
They got enough? Probably, okay, sounds good.
Let's go lunch. I'm
Oh.
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just bite too.